If you're looking to rent out your property, maybe for the first time, you've probably given some thought as to how you might go about marketing or listing the property. You have two options. You can either work with a realtor and pay some amount of money, usually 1 month's rent, or do it yourself for next to nothing. Now, I'm big on DIY, do it yourself. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what I did to list and market my property without the help of a realtor and how you can do the same for yourself. So stay tuned. Hey folks, Richard Walls here, and if it's your first time on the channel, welcome. What it's all about is helping you with your professional branding, career development, and personal finance. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, do make sure to subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you get notified as soon as I post new content. Now, and if you like this video, if you like what you see, it'd be a huge favor to me and the YouTube algorithm if you hit the like button down below as well. And with that said, let's get to it. Now, when thinking about a rental property, you really have to consider all your monthly and yearly expenses and really your cash flow. And what does that look like over the course of an entire year? Now, one of those expenses could potentially be you working with a realtor to list your property, market it, and then find the right tenant. Now, typically the realtor would charge up to 1 month's rent. That can of course be negotiated, but really when you take into account your cash flow for the year, depending on your situation, it could be the case that that 1 month's rent that you have to pay out eats into your income a little bit too much. So instead of paying that, what you can do is do yourself, as I mentioned earlier, list and market the property yourself, which I'll walk you through here momentarily. But before I do want to say one thing, especially to all my realtor friends watching this video, that working with a realtor is not a bad use of money, because it comes in handy in a lot of different situations. For example, if you have a rental property that you simply don't have time to list and market and show to prospective tenants, then a realtor can come in handy. They can do all that for you. They can walk the prospective tenant through the property. And if your property, if you don't live near your property, if it's out of state or in a different city and you can't get to it, well, realtors are going to be probably your best option there. And lastly, to be totally frank, listing and marketing a property can be quite a bit of work up front, especially since I've gone through it. And I think once you've gone through it once, it becomes a little bit easier the next few times. But certainly there's a good amount of work up front that you have to do. So if you really just don't want the hassle, then you really don't have to watch this video. You can actually click X out of it right now. But before you do, make sure to hit that like button down below. Like I mentioned, helps me out. So now that I said my piece on realtors, for me, the expense was too high. It didn't quite make sense financially to do so, and I was willing to do the work and research up front to make this happen. So, challenge accepted. And here are the 4 steps that I took. Step number 1 is tidy up the property. Make it look presentable, make it look show ready. This means that you're gonna have to do quite a bit of cleaning. You're gonna wanna make it look spotless, because 2 things are gonna happen. One is you're going to take pictures of the property, and that's of course gonna go onto the listing, and that's gonna be what you show to prospective clients that are searching for rental units. But the second thing, of course, is you're going to be inviting tenants, prospective tenants, to look at the property. Last thing you want to do is run them off because you have dirty floors or mystery stains or bad smells. You don't want that to happen. Speaking of bad smells, one pro tip that I'm going to give you, and you can take this to the bank. One easy thing to do is get an automatic timed air freshener. You know, the ones that you plug into the sockets that spritz out every once in a while. Those are gold. Those are relatively inexpensive, but they add so much to the property and so much more to the experience when you walk a tenant through it. And I can tell you, the properties that I've seen that have air fresheners, I noticed like it's a very nice addition to the experience, and it makes you have much more of a positive outlook on the property. Second step is take good photos. Now, there could be a whole nother video on property photography. And I'm not saying I'm an expert photographer for a property or for anything really, but I don't have to be, neither do you, because what we've got generally pretty good phones. And I've got a Galaxy Note 9 that I use and actually use to shoot these videos with that has very good quality images that you can take, and that's all you really need. You can get a little bit more advanced if you have a better camera and all that stuff, but it's ultimately not really that necessary. But what the trick is, you know, if you go on Zillow or Realtor.com, just go take a look. Draw inspiration from some other properties that might be similar to yours, and look at the photos that they show and identify the photos that you like to see, and try to replicate that with your photography for your property. And really the goal here with photographing the property is you want to make the unit look as big as possible. You want it to look as big and as open as possible. And so that really is a function of the angles that you use to take the pictures. But then the other part of it is you also want to accentuate certain features of the property, and that again is also angles, but also lighting. Lighting is very important, but I'm not going to go into all that detail here in this video, but just know that good photos make or break your listing and make or break the experience you have in attracting potential tenants. Third is find and use a rental management platform. Now, there are a handful of really good platforms out there. I will recommend and mention two of them to you. One is cozy.co and the other one is avail.co. Now, I decided to go with avail.co for a number of reasons. I've had a really good experience with that platform, so that's really what I would recommend. But you can go with either, and whatever suits your preference. You might have a different preference in terms of maybe some of the features or just the look and feel, but they're both very good platforms. And really what these platforms allow you to do is they allow you to upload your listing to the platform itself. You can load your photos, your description, your other details like rent and your pet policy, all that stuff. You can upload it to these platforms, and what happens, here's the beauty, is that it then propagates all that information, all those details, to all the most popular search sites for rentals. So Zillow, Realtor.com, Apartments.com, Redfin, and a handful of other ones. So really it's one place that you can do your upload, do your listing, and then it sends it out to all the other sites. Now, these platforms can do quite a bit more than what I just mentioned, more than just listings, but that's what I mentioned because that's what this video in particular is about. But here's the kicker. These platforms are free to use. Now, of course, they have some paid versions that give you some additional features, certainly not required, but they give you additional features, which I elected to do through avail.co. They have some features that I really like, but even then, the paid versions of these are very affordable, incredibly inexpensive. Now, in the description below, I've got a link, a referral link to avail.co, so make sure to just give that a look and see if that suits your style and it gives you the features that you need, but I've had nothing but a positive experience with them, so that's what I'd recommend to you. Step number 4 is create your listing and publish. So once you've identified which platform you want to use, now it comes a time to create your listing. So this is where you upload your photos. This is where you create your description, which is also probably just as important as the photos that you take. Now I'll share with you a snippet of the description that I used for my property that you can take a look at, but you'll realize there's a structure to it and there's a few key details that I mentioned. I mean, not even a few, there's a lot of details I mentioned, all of them very important. So for example, you certainly want to mention some of the upgrades you might have done to the property, or even if you haven't done any upgrades, but just call out certain features like hardwood floors, or you've got granite or quartz countertops, or you had a recently remodeled bathroom. So anything that you can mention that could be perceived as a value add to the property, that should be in the description. What should also be in the description is the location. You're going to want to talk about the proximity to major employers, if there are major employers nearby. Also proximity to major highways. Also, how quick can you get downtown if you're in a suburb and you have a major city nearby? Or if not downtown, then maybe another focal area of the city that happens to be pretty popular. You'll also want to include in the description what appliances are included or not included, and then also what utilities may or may not be included. Really make it clear what you as the property owner are responsible for versus what the tenant is responsible for. And the last thing is, I would highly recommend that in the description you include what you require of the prospective tenant as far as the application goes. So this means if you require a background check and a credit check, which I recommend you do that as well, make sure to list that in the description that that's something you do require. Also list any deposits that the prospective tenant might have to put down if selected, or any other fees. So you really want to be as upfront as possible as to what the applicant should expect, so that of course you get less interest and you get less contacts from potential tenants, but the ones that you do get calling in will have already read all that stuff and they're fine with the requirements. So you're spending your time much more efficiently that way. So that about covers it. I hope it helps and gives you a good start, or at least helps you think about what the process is and what to consider. Now, I plan to do a lot more videos on the topic of DIY real estate investing and property management. So if you want to see more stuff like that in the future, of course, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. And in the meantime, I would love to hear from you. What's your experience with real estate investing been, and what kind of tips do you have for potential real estate investors out there? Leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.